When Sophia walked into her new classroom, holding her white cane tightly and counting her steps, everyone turned to stare, except one boy. The boy who would make her cry, and eventually make her feel what love truly means. Sophia had always been good at pretending that everything was fine. She had learned how to smile even when people stared too long, whispering things they thought she couldn't hear. She had learned how to count her steps from home to school, how to listen carefully to the rhythm of the world around her, and how to hide the ache that sometimes came from living in darkness. Since the accident that took both her parents and her sight when she was 9, life had become a long lesson in courage. Now 17, she had just transferred to a new school, hoping for a fresh start. But life has a cruel way of testing those who already carry too much. That morning, she stood at the school gate, her white cane tapping lightly against the concrete. She could smell the wet grass, hear laughter from the courtyard, and feel the uncertain buzz of hundreds of students moving around her. She took a deep breath, straightened her back, and whispered to herself, "You can do this." Sophia, with slow, confident steps, she followed the faint scent of chalk and floor polish that led her to her classroom. Every sound mattered, the scrape of chairs, the echo of shoes, the hum of whispers that quieted as she entered. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Sophia." No one answered right away. Then a boy's voice, smooth but sharp, broke the silence. "She's blind?" he asked, as if she weren't standing there. The class giggled. Her lips pressed together, but she didn't let her face change. She walked carefully toward the nearest desk, counting under her breath. But when she reached it and tried to sit down, her chair wasn't there. She stumbled slightly, her bag falling to the floor. Laughter rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "Guess she didn't see that coming." Her cheeks burned, but she smiled faintly, pretending she hadn't heard. A girl from the back came over quietly and helped her find her seat. "Don't mind them," the girl whispered. "They're just being idiots." "Thank you," Sophia replied, grateful for the kindness. But the boy's voice, the one who had first spoken, stuck in her mind. He had a certain tone, confident, playful, and cruel in a way that felt practiced. Later she would learn his name, Aiden, captain of the basketball team. Popular, charming, the kind of boy who had the world in his hands, but didn't seem to care who got crushed under his feet. From that day on, Aiden became her shadow in the worst way. Every time she tried to blend in, he was there. He'd move her things, whisper something mocking under his breath, or make jokes that sent laughter around the room. "Careful, Sophia," he'd say. "You might trip over your pride." His friends would laugh, but sometimes she noticed a strange hesitation in his tone, like he wasn't sure why he was doing it. Still, she never responded with anger. Instead, she smiled, calm and unshaken. "I may be blind," she told him once after another round of teasing, "but I still see better than you." For a moment, silence filled the room. Aiden didn't know what to say. Her words hit something deep inside him, but he quickly brushed it off, forcing a laugh. "You're funny," he muttered, turning away. What Sophia couldn't see was that Aiden's smirk wasn't as strong as it sounded. His laughter faded faster each time he saw her face, peaceful, gentle, and full of quiet strength. Behind his teasing, there was something else he didn't understand yet. Aiden had his own shadows. His mother had left when he was 12, and his father drowned his loneliness in alcohol. The house was cold, filled with silence that screamed louder than words. Aiden grew up believing that feelings were weaknesses, that caring made you a target. So he built walls, layer after layer, until no one could reach him. Hurting others made him feel in control, even when deep down he was falling apart. But Sophia's calmness confused him. He wanted her to get angry, to fight back, to show weakness, but she never did. Every insult he threw at her bounced off like rain on glass. And the more she didn't react, the more something inside him twisted uncomfortably. One afternoon, a heavy rain started as classes ended. Sophia stood near the school gate, waiting for the storm to lighten before walking home. She listened to the rhythm of raindrops hitting the pavement, the rush of water along the street, and the distant hum of engines. She hesitated, her cane tapping the edge of the curb. Then she heard it, the fast growl of a car engine turning the corner, closer and closer. The rain drowned out everything else. She stepped forward, thinking the road was clear. In that split second, a shout broke through the noise. "Sophia!" Strong arms wrapped around her waist and pulled her backward. The car sped past, splashing muddy water where she had stood. She gasped, heart pounding, her fingers clutching the sleeve of the person who had saved her. It was Aiden. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The rain poured over them, soaking their uniforms, the cold biting into their skin. "You could have died," Aiden said finally, his voice trembling with anger, but not the kind she was used to. This one was fear, real fear. "I didn't hear it coming," she said softly. "Thank you." "Aiden," he froze. It was the first time she had ever said his name, and somehow it made him feel smaller than he'd ever felt. He wanted to say something, but the words tangled in his throat. Her face was turned up toward the rain, her hair wet, her blind eyes reflecting a strange kind of light. For the first time, he looked at her, not as a joke, not as a target, but as someone who was real, someone who had survived more pain than he could imagine. "Let me walk you home," he said quietly. She nodded, and they walked in silence. He guided her carefully, describing puddles and steps, making sure she didn't slip. When they reached her street, she turned to him and said, "You have a kind voice when you're not trying to hurt someone." He didn't know how to respond. All he could do was nod. "I'll see you tomorrow," he murmured before walking away. That night, Aiden couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing in the rain, calm and fearless. He remembered the warmth of her hand when she held his sleeve, the softness in her voice when she thanked him. For the first time in years, guilt seeped into his chest like a slow ache. He thought about the cruel things he had said, the laughter that no longer felt funny. He thought about how she never hated him, never even raised her voice. And for the first time, Aiden realized something that terrified him. He didn't just feel sorry for her, he admired her. The next morning, when Sophia entered the classroom, there was a strange silence. Her chair was where it was supposed to be. Her books were untouched. And when she passed by Aiden's desk, he didn't say a word. But as she took her seat, she heard a soft voice, barely above a whisper. "Morning, Sophia." It was him. She smiled faintly. "Good morning, Aiden." He didn't know it yet, but that moment was the beginning of everything, of his guilt, his redemption. The next few days after the rain felt different. Sophia noticed it immediately, even without seeing the change. The hallway whispers softened when she passed. The cruel laughter that used to echo behind her faded, and the air between her and Aiden was no longer filled with tension. There was a hesitation in his voice whenever he spoke near her, as if every word carried the weight of something he was trying to fix. Aiden had stopped teasing her. In fact, he seemed to go out of his way to help her, though he did it quietly, so no one would notice. When she entered the classroom, her chair was always perfectly in place. Her books were already on her desk, and sometimes, when she'd drop her pen, it would magically reappear in her hand a few seconds later. He thought she didn't notice, but she did. Sophia noticed everything that couldn't be seen. One afternoon, she heard the sound of sneakers sliding across the court near the schoolyard. The rhythmic bounce of a basketball filled the air. She followed the sound, letting her cane tap lightly along the concrete path until she reached the fence. "Who's there?" she called. "It's me," Aiden said, catching the ball mid-bounce. "Didn't know you liked basketball." "I don't," she replied, smiling. "But I like listening. It sounds alive." He hesitated before replying. "Yeah, it keeps me sane, I guess." She tilted her head slightly. "You don't sound very happy for someone who's supposed to have everything." Aiden froze. Her words were soft, but they hit something he didn't want to admit. He tried to brush it off. "You don't miss much for someone who can't see." "I don't need eyes to feel sadness," she said simply. "It's heavier than it sounds." Aiden swallowed hard. "Yeah," he whispered. "I guess you're right." on, and the love story neither of them saw coming. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong enough to see the good in people who once couldn't see it in you.